Hey guys, are you ready to transform your mind so you can transform your life? Coach Mirna brings you one-on-one coaching and expert guests weekly to help you to grow. Because happiness is the progressive realization of a worthy goal.
Looking for personal growth? Let's do it.
So one of the big ways that it's different is that you can't see anything wrong. So if we were to take somebody with rheumatoid arthritis and we were to do an x-ray, you would see joint deformity, right? If we had somebody who had lupus, you'd be able to potentially even see organ damage, right? With fibromyalgia, visually speaking, and when we run labs, MRIs, x-rays, everything looks completely normal. And for the people who are listening who maybe have fibromyalgia, let me finish explaining this before you jump on me. But it's really about how our brains are interpreting what's happening in our bodies. It is not a mental condition. There are very much real physical things going wrong with fibromyalgia, but it's really more a matter of our brains not processing pain properly. So we think that something hurts that really doesn't, or we think something hurts more than it should.
Isn't that the sweetest sound? That's the sound of another sale or another dollar hitting your Shopify e-commerce store. Nobody does selling better than Shopify. It's the home of the #1 checkout on the planet. Sign up for $1 per month trial period at shopify.com/transform, all lowercase. Welcome back to the Transform Your Mind to Transform Your Life radio, podcast, and television show. I'm your host, Life Coach Mirna Young, and sitting in the guest chair today is Tami Stacklehouse. Tami and I are going to be talking on the topic From Illness to Wellness, how to heal your body from fibromyalgia. Welcome, Tami.
Thank you. I'm excited to talk with you today.
Yes, I'm excited to get into how we can use our mind and brain to heal, which is, I figured, is where the conversation is going to go. So I love it. I love it. All right. So let me give you guys a brief introduction. Tami Stacklehouse is an award-winning author, founder of the International Fibromyalgia Coaching Institute, and executive producer of the fibromyalgia documentary Invisible. Tami teaches patients how to take back control of their lives and health using her signature Fibromyalgia Wellness Framework, so they can break free from the prison their bodies have become and begin living lives they love. Once disabled by fibromyalgia, a chronic pain condition that affects 1 in 16 people, Tami created Fibromyalgia Wellness Framework to manage her symptoms and ultimately achieve remission. Not wanting to keep the gift of help to herself, Tami has used her framework over the past 2 decades to coach hundreds of thousands of patients to regain control of their lives and health. Tami shares her expertise and joy through her Fibromyalgia podcast and award-winning books. Her latest innovation, the Fibromyalgia Wellness Style Quiz, offers science-based advice to help patients manage their symptoms effectively, leveraging their natural strengths. Awesome. All right. So that was a mouthful.
Yeah.
I wanted to give you guys a full background of Tami. So I read the whole thing.
Lots of fibromyalgias in there too, and that's not an easy word.
Say it several times.
Yes.
I'm glad you noticed. I'm tripping up on it. All right. So Tami and I are having this conversation because May is Fibromyalgia Awareness Month. So we wanted to bring this conversation to your awareness. So as we start off, I'm going to ask directly, what exactly is fibromyalgia and how is it diagnosed?
Good question and great place to start.
Yeah.
So fibromyalgia, there's a lot we know, but there's also a lot we don't know. So I always describe fibromyalgia like the elephant, and if you know the parable of the elephant and the blind men, right? Like The blind men are like, oh, an elephant is like a wall. It's like a snake. It's like a tree. And that's kind of where we're at with fibromyalgia. We know a lot of little things, but we still don't know the root cause or like the disease mechanism within the body. It is a chronic health condition, chronic pain condition with widespread body pain, and that pain moves around from place to place. And we have fatigue, right? So not just your normal level of tired, but like a whole new level of tired. And we have cognitive dysfunction, brain fog, and then unrefreshing sleep, which just means you could sleep and sleep and sleep and wake up and feel like you didn't sleep at all. So those are the main symptoms. They do come with a lot of other things with it as well. Getting diagnosed is a problem. It's a struggle. Most patients will see 5 or more doctors and go easily 3 to 5 years or longer before they get a diagnosis. And part of the reason for that is we don't have a good diagnostic test that we can give people that we can point to and say, that's it, you have fibromyalgia. Because we look normal on all the labs. We look normal on the x-rays and the MRIs, right? So we really diagnose fibromyalgia by looking at the symptoms, how long you've had the symptoms, what those symptoms are, and diagnose from there.
Well, I've known a couple of people, and really interestingly, they were both coaches that were able to, like you, that were able to manage their symptoms through, you know, brain power and mind and those type of things that we're going to talk about. But I was under the impression that it's a pain that's, I know you mentioned it's all over the body, but is it predominantly in your face? Is it like your face hurt? Is that one of those?
No. I mean, it can, but really it is, fibromyalgia pain is pretty much everywhere. In fact, that's one of the, used to be a real big part of the diagnostic criteria. Now it's just sort of like one of the things that we look at, where you have to have pain all over. So you can't just have a bad shoulder. You can't just have a bad back, right? It needs to be widespread body pain.
Okay, including the face, right?
Oh, yes, absolutely.
Okay, because
we don't leave anything out, only but the face, right?
Okay.
It just may be that that's where they experience the majority of their pain.
Really? In their face? Wow. Okay. So walk me through it. You've got this pain all over your body. It's not arthritic. It is so it's like a burning pain. If somebody's right now listening, and because people get pain for all kinds of reasons, pain is your body's way of telling you that something's wrong. For instance, I've got a pain in my foot right now. And I was just interviewing somebody a couple of days ago, and he was saying, well, pain is telling you, and it's the first, what did he say? Is it the first or the last? Oh, right. It's the last thing that happens when something is out of alignment. The pain is going to tell you that something is wrong. So, so people have pain all over, arthritis pain, whatever. So what makes fibromyalgia pain different?
Oh, good question. So one of the big ways that it's different is that you can't see anything wrong. So if we were to take somebody with rheumatoid arthritis and we were to do an x-ray, you would see joint deformity, right? If we had somebody who had lupus, you'd be able to potentially even see organ damage, right? With fibromyalgia, visually speaking, and when we run labs, MRIs, x-rays, everything looks completely normal. And for the people who are listening who maybe have fibromyalgia, let me finish explaining this before you jump on me. But it's really about how our brains are interpreting what's happening in our bodies. It is not a mental condition. There are very much real physical things going wrong with fibromyalgia, but it's really more a matter of our brains not processing pain properly. So we think that something hurts that really doesn't, or we think something hurts more than it should. They've done a lot of really interesting MRI studies where they've shown that people with fibromyalgia have a 2x pain response. So somebody without fibromyalgia would say, oh, my pain is about a 2. Somebody with fibromyalgia would say, oh, my pain's at a 4. Right. The other part is that in those same studies, they could see that 10 extra areas of the brain light up when we experience pain. And that's not just fibro pain, that's like stub your toe pain, but more of our brain lights up, more of our brain works to process that pain. And so it's very much a pain processing problem.
Okay. Now I'm understanding it. I'm understanding it. I'm already jumped way ahead of our conversation because once you now I'm understanding how people can heal themselves from it because yes, you just yeah. All right. So that's amazing. All right. So you've got this pain, it's all over. You go to the doctor. It takes them a long time to figure out what's wrong with you. Maybe when they run labs, and maybe you didn't mention blood, but maybe nothing shows up on the blood.
Yeah.
Maybe they're thinking you're hypochondriac, that you're just imagining things. But after the pain doesn't go away for maybe what, years, then they might decide, well, let's look at fibromyalgia. Is that the process?
Sort of, yes. Although it doesn't have to be years. Like when we're doing the diagnosis, we're actually looking at months. And an interesting statistic for people listening, if you experience an acute injury, so car accident, break your foot, whatever it is, if you are still experiencing pain 6 months later, there is a big, big, big chance that you are going to have that pain for a lot longer. So the point there is take care of it right away, because that is part of how this pain processing problem gets started. Almost everybody with fibromyalgia has some sort of a trauma trigger. So that could be a car accident, but it also could be, in my case, an extremely stressful job. Right. And because of that stress, it sort of flips a switch. And now we're processing things incorrectly.
Okay.
Yeah.
I got it. All right. Well, this is a good point for me to bring in your personal experience. So, you mentioned that your fibromyalgia is in remission. Can you share your journey of what steps you took to achieve that? And then I have a backup question on there because you mentioned remission. So maybe the first question I want you to answer, can this disease be cured? Or once you got it, you always have it?
Yeah, so that is such an interesting thing to think about, right? The difference between cured or healed and remission. So cured to me means you can go back to life like you never even had it, like it's just 100% totally gone. Healed is more like, you break a bone and it heals. Like there's still maybe some residual left over, but it's back to normal. Remission is no symptoms, right? So I still have fibromyalgia. The way I describe it is I still live in a fibro body, but I'm not experiencing pain. I'm not experiencing fatigue. So for me, and that wasn't a word, just to be super clear, that was not a word I chose. That's an official medical term that your doctor gives you, right?
Okay.
And when my doctor first said, oh, I've considered you to be in remission for years, I was like, whoa, hold up, what? And it actually, it took me a few months to kind of come to terms with that. It sounds kind of odd, but I mean, that's a big word.
Yeah.
So,
But it also tells me that it can come back, which is basically
yes.
what that means, right?
Right. That's exactly what that means. And some people with fibromyalgia would consider that bad news, but it doesn't have to be bad news. To me, what that means in my life is I can't go back to abusing my body the way I used to, right? Pulling the all-nighters, not eating good, healthy food, too much stress. Like those were all the things that triggered my fibromyalgia. And those are the things that there's no question in my mind would bring it back, right?
Okay. Summer's on its way. As the days get longer and warmer, doesn't it feel good to get outside? Are you excited to refresh your outdoor space for those nice hot evenings? There's no better place to go for outdoor furniture than Wayfair. What outdoor projects do you want to take on this summer? Are you looking for outdoor seating? Then choose from Wayfair's huge selection of conversation sets, chaise lounges, club chairs, Adirondack chairs, outdoor sofas, and more. How about an outdoor spa? Wayfair also has a huge selection of gazebos, pergolas, and hot tubs. There's something for every home, every style, no matter your space or budget. Wayfair also offers free and easy delivery, even on the big stuff. No more huge delivery fees for patio furniture. Get big stuff like patio sets, gazebos, hot tubs, outdoor dining sets, and more shipped free. This summer, get outside with Wayfair. Head to wayfair.com right now. That's WAYFAIR.com. Wayfair. Every style, every home. In my early 20s, I learned about skincare when I took a modeling course. Since then, I always looked at my skin as an indication of my health. Recently, my body's been telling me that something was off. My skin had lost its natural glow. No matter how many expensive skincare products I used at night, my skin was still dull. Then I found Peak's Radiant Skin Duo. And let me tell you, it's been a game changer. This doctor-recommended duo, backed by experts like Dr. Mark Hyman, Dr. Jason Fung, and Dr. Will Cole, is designed to deeply hydrate, boost energy, and support whole body wellness from the inside out. And with over 15,000 five-star reviews, I knew I had to try it. Peak's Radiant Skin Duo includes the Sun Goddess Matcha Green Tea and BT Fountain Beauty Electrolytes. BT Fountain has clinically proven remedies to lock in moisture at the cellular level, keeping my skin and body hydrated from the inside out. And the glow, insane. My skin never looked so plump, fresh, and dewy. Take a look. If you're tired of feeling depleted and want to finally nourish your body the right way, now's the time. Get 20% off plus a free rechargeable frother and glass beaker with my exclusive link. That's peaklife.com/Myrna. That's PIQUELIFE.com/MYRNA. Do not sleep on this. Your body and your skin will thank you. All right, so let's expand on your journey a little more. So, when did you notice that you had it, and what steps did you take to heal yourself? Or do they give you pills for this?
Yeah, there are pills. So for me, I was diagnosed in 2007, and I had been experiencing symptoms for years. For me, what that looked like was just, an overall achiness, kind of like you're getting the flu, you're getting a cold, or you kind of feel a little bit achy. That's kind of what it was like. And to be honest, I didn't really think a whole lot about it. I just figured that was what happened as you got older. Now, let me say, I was in my late 20s. So I'm not talking about like in my 60s, in my 50s, in my 40s. This was my late 20s. And I was like, oh, well, I guess this is just what happens. And then the fatigue was huge for me. I remember when I was working thinking, oh God, if I could just close the door and lay down for a second, just so exhausted. And the brain fog also was really bad for me. I was managing the support department for a software company, and I used to tell my employees, if it's not written down, it doesn't exist. Like, don't tell me something I am not going to remember. Right?
Wow.
So finally, I got a diagnosis. And for me, that did not happen until I got married and changed insurance.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, I was, before I got married, I was part of an HMO. I won't mention any names.
I know.
They
Yeah.
are great if you fit in their box, but if
Yep.
you
Yep.
don't fit in their box, they just don't know what to do with you. So
Right.
after I got married, I started looking for a new doctor and pretty much immediately got diagnosed once I got into the right system.
Mm-hmm.
And when I left that first doctor's appointment, I left with, I think, 3 prescriptions and a list of supplements to buy,
Mhm. So
which
there are pills. Okay,
there
got
are
it.
pills. Yep, yep. But, to kind of put it in perspective, it doesn't work for everybody. And the kind of improvement that you would see with these medications would be, a good improvement would be maybe 30%.
Mm,
So
right,
not even a third, right?
right. Mm-hmm.
And so that's just not enough, right?
Right.
So for the first couple of years, I did what my doctor was telling me, and I didn't keep getting worse, but I also wasn't getting better. Like I was treading water.
Mm,
And I had this moment of just sort of looking ahead and seeing what my life might become if I stayed on this same trajectory. And I decided, no. And that is when my doctor introduced me to the health coach that worked in their office.
mm,
And my coach didn't know anything about fibromyalgia. I was the one who educated her, but she was able to hold me accountable for
mm.
doing the things that I knew I needed to do or that my doctor was telling me to do, like going to bed on time. My inner
But,
2 year old never wants to go to bed.
but you said that you don't get refreshing sleep. So how does that help when you still have it?
Right, exactly. So some sleep is better than no sleep,
Okay,
but
right.
we
Yeah.
still have to actually work on the sleep. So one of the things that happened was I had a sleep study, found out that I had upper airway resistance syndrome. It's similar to sleep apnea. And so I got a CPAP machine and that helped my sleep. Some of the medications are to improve quality of sleep, to help
Okay.
you fall asleep. Um, Medications to help manage pain, supplements to help fix some of the other things that are going wrong in our bodies. But my coach was really the person that helped me start to make those changes and implement those things, to
Okay.
change my diet, to, all the stuff. Right.
Mhm.
And so that was really the first big step, was having that health coach and having her help me start to implement all of those things. One of the next big steps was discovering that I have an autoimmune thyroid condition. I have Hashimoto's thyroiditis. So discovering that, getting that treated, there was just like, there wasn't any one thing that was like, oh, wow, okay, I'm better now. It was little steps
Mhm.
along the way, so there, the way that I describe it to my clients is there's really, like, if you can think of it like a three-legged stool, we've got one leg that is like the stuff that's actually going wrong in your body, right? Like me having autoimmune thyroid, me having a sleep disorder, like those things really do need to be fixed. The second leg of the stool is our habits, our lifestyle, our diet, pacing, all that good stuff. And then the third leg of the stool, which is, I know, the part that you're going to be interested in, is the mindset part of
I
it.
know.
How
I
we
know it
think
was
about.
coming.
You knew we were going to get there. So it's how we think about our bodies, how we think about our illness, the mindset that we hold as we then go out and do all those other things we have to do. Right.
Right, right, right. Yeah. Well, I know it was coming because when you said is the way your brain processes things. So we all know that. The newer science says that you can change the brain and you can rewire it. So I figured that was how you can heal yourself and be in remission from something that is once you have it, you always have it. So that's pretty good. So now one of the things you were talking about there is that you also talk about in your work is that your body is not your enemy. So is that part of how you think about, for instance, if I'm, talking this through, um, I I go to a doctor and the doctor tells me, oh, the reason nothing shows up on your x-rays or nothing shows up in your blood is because your brain is telling your body that to hurt, right?
Mm-hmm.
So if you can interrupt that somehow, then maybe, you can maybe change the path or something. So talk to us about that.
Yes. So for me, the way that all of that, this idea that my body isn't the enemy, the way that that all started, I was married about 6 months and I was talking like we girls sometimes do about my body not working right, not being the size or shape I wanted it to
Yeah.
be, all these things. My new husband overheard me. And he looks at me, he said, every time you say stuff like that, you're basically calling me a liar. I'm like, what
Aw.
now? This has nothing to do with you. What are you talking about? And he's like, I chose you. I think you're beautiful. And every time you say things like that, you're basically calling me a liar. And I was like, okay, let me take a minute. Let me process that.
Light bulb. Light bulb.
Yeah. And so from there, just realizing, okay, hey, wait a minute. My body was made to heal itself. That's how it was designed, right? And my body wants the same thing. She wants the same thing I want, which is to feel better, right? And so just realizing that it wasn't me against my body. It was me and my body maybe against fibromyalgia, although now I don't even think fibromyalgia is the enemy. But if you got to start somewhere, start there.
Start there, right? Right.
But just realizing, we're working towards the same goal. And I had not been treating my body well. I had been treating my body like the printer that acts up and never does what you want, right? I had this attitude like the real me was stuck inside a body that was broken and didn't work right. And that if I could only get a new body, everything would be fixed, right?
But you can't.
Not today, anyway. Maybe someday.
Oh, yeah.
So starting to make that shift and starting to think differently about it, then enabled me to do a lot of the other things that I needed to do. Right.
Okay. Right. I like that. So, how can we change the way we approach healing?
Yes. So one of my very favorite things to talk about is that shift between focusing on your illness and focusing on your healing or your wellness. And that can be really hard when you have a chronic health condition, right? And I'll just give an example of what that potentially could look like. So let's say you're invited out to a party on Friday night. And you get to Friday afternoon and you're thinking, oh my goodness, it's been a long week. I don't have the energy to do this. I'm already in pain. I'm exhausted. I can't go. Stupid fibromyalgia is keeping me from living the life I want, right? That's the focusing on your illness. I can't because of fibromyalgia. And your whole world is revolving around what you can and can't do, right? The shift then is to come at it from, I'm going to do this so that I can feel better tomorrow. So same situation, right? You got a party Friday night, you're feeling terrible Friday afternoon. The thought difference is, I'm going to choose not to go so that I can feel better on Saturday. It looks exactly the same. You're not going to the party Friday night, right? But one of them is almost more of a, I hate to say it, but almost more of a victim mindset where this is happening to me. I can't do anything about it. Fibromyalgia is keeping me from living my life. And the other side of it being, I'm choosing not to do this so that I can get better. And that is such a more empowered place to be, even if it looks exactly the same from the outside. What's happening in your head is so different.
I like it. That shocked me. I had to think, what are you saying?
Yeah.
Because I thought that you were going to say something like, I am going to make myself go because I'm not going to have this fibromyalgia keep me a prisoner in this body. I'm going to go do it. And then, like they say sometimes you don't feel like running.
And then
When you run, you feel better. So I thought that was the way you were going. So unpack that a little bit for me and our listening audience.
yes.
You're not going to the party, but you think you're not going to go. Why? Because you're going to get rest. Why are you going to feel better for not going?
I've been an entrepreneur since early 90s, even winning the Entrepreneur of the Year award. But when I first thought of starting my business, I had the passion and the vision, but zero clue where to start when it came to selling online. This is where Shopify can help. Shopify helps you set up your digital storefront. Shopify is the commerce platform behind millions of businesses around the world and 10% of all e-commerce in the US. From household names like Mattel and Drew House to brands just getting started. Whether you're selling physical products, digital downloads, or services, Shopify has everything you need to launch, manage, and scale your business. Shopify is also packed with helpful AI tools that write product descriptions, page headlines, and even enhance your product photography. Get the word out like you have a marketing team behind you. Easily create email and social media campaigns wherever your customers are scrolling or strolling. And best yet, Shopify helps you transform your business with expertise in everything from managing inventory to processing returns. So, if you're ready to sell, you're ready to Shopify. Turn your big business idea into with Shopify on your side. Sign up for $1 per month trial period and start selling today at shopify.com/transform. Go to shopify.com/transform.
Yeah. So one of the problems with fibromyalgia is that it is this pain processing problem, but we do have other things that are going wrong in us as well. So for one thing, we've got mitochondrial dysfunction. And so our fatigue and our energy problems come from that. And the way that I teach my clients is you've got an energy budget for the day, just like you have a money budget for the month, right? You get a certain amount and you can spend that however you want to spend it. But when you run out, you're out. And if you borrow from tomorrow, it costs you more, right? So if I'm out by Friday afternoon, going and doing it anyway is going to cost me more.
Yes.
Right. The other thing is that sometimes it is worth it. Right? Flare worthy is the term that we use. It is worth going into a flare. If that's like grandma's 95th birthday party, we're going anyway. Right? And it's really the way I think about fibromyalgia and getting better is that it's really about making choices. Right? And this is true for everybody on the planet. You can't do everything, right? You have to make choices. And I actually think that's a gift that fibromyalgia has given me, is making me aware of how my choices count, right? And so if I choose to go to the party, that's grandma's 95th birthday, I'm going. She's not going to have a bunch more. It's important. If it's just, a bunch of girlfriends getting together, you know what? I can see them again. And thinking about how can I give my body what she needs in order for her to do what she was made to do and heal. Right. And if I am always pushing through, if I am always using every last drop of energy, we can't do that. Right. Because it takes energy to heal. And so if you're using all of it just to get through the day, you've got nothing left. Right.
Yeah. Okay. So I'm pretty sure you learned that the hard way over time.
Yes. Yes, that was the voice of experience talking right there.
That's right. You learned that the hard way over time. Yes, I like it. So that's actually very critical, though. I'm glad that we unpack that because it's a change of focus. It's a change of your internal dialogue. And it's almost the same as looking at a relationship and looking at it that or looking at it progressing. That's the first thing I think about. But yeah, how we one of my most favorite sayings, and it's something that I live by, is change the way you think of a thing, and the thing you think of will change. So
Yes.
that is exactly that is exactly what you're saying here. Yeah. Um, I'm not gonna go out because fibromyalgia is making me a prisoner. I can't do nothing.
Right. Exactly. Right. Exactly.
That's right. Yeah, I can't do nothing. My life is, the shits. No, whatever. But now you're saying, hey, you know what? I'm making the choice. Stay at home, have a quiet evening, you know, fill up on my energy, right? And then maybe tomorrow I can go to the beach or the park or spend time with my children or something like that. And you put it in that buckets. That's great.
Exactly.
That's
Yeah,
great.
yeah, exactly that. I really feel like one of the things that happens with fibromyalgia is that it can feel like a long taking away of things, right? We lose our ability to function, our ability to think. Sometimes we lose jobs, we lose relationships. Like it's just, the foods that we eat, and it's like one more thing gets taken away. One of my favorite questions a client ever asked me was, if I work with you, do I have to give up coffee and chocolate? And I was like, that really says a lot, right? Because it was sort of like, these are the last two things I have that bring me joy. Do I have to give them up? And so we
Well,
really have
is there like a trigger with those foods, which is why she's
yeah,
asking?
it could be, but my response to her was, only if you want to, right? There's so many other things that we can work on before we have to worry about that.
Wow.
And we also can start adding other things that bring you joy back into your life. It might not look exactly the same. I love to use the example of gardening, right? Maybe you were someone who did a lot of gardening out in the garden, and now maybe you just have a container garden, right? Where it's elevated and it's smaller.
Mhm.
Or maybe what you loved was being able to have fresh vegetables, and so you go get them from the farmer's market. Or maybe it was about the sunshine and the fresh air, and so you just go to the park and sit on a bench. So we really dig in and see what exactly was that brought you joy, and how do we bring that element back in? Because life has got to be worth living, right? There's a reason I'm not going to bed on time unless there's like a reason. Right? There has to be some joy there. There has to be,
Yeah.
like, the reason we do all of these things is so we can go out and live the life that we want to live, you
Wow.
know?
Right. So you said a minute ago that even with all the medication and the diet and things like that, then it only helps at like 30%. So does that mean that 100% of the time people with fibromyalgia are in pain unless it's in remission?
Yes, and
No. Okay.
I think the important lesson there is that any one thing is only going to get you a little ways there. But you can stack those. Right. So if I've got one thing that helps 30% and one thing that helps 10% and a few things that help
Wow.
2%,
Okay.
right? We can stack them and eventually you can get to 100, but it is never going to be one or two things. It's
Okay.
going to be a lot of things all working together. And then, of course, time, right? Because your body needs to heal. It's not just a matter of flipping a switch, right? We have to heal all the things that are going wrong. So there is an element of time there as well. But, for me, I only worked with that coach for like the first 6 months, and my life was dramatically different.
Change. Right.
So,
Well, they say, a quote is going to come to my head right now. Jim Rohn says that success is a few simple disciplines practiced every day. And what a coach helps you to do, the first thing you talked about is accountability. And, some people can have accountability for themselves. Like um, I am very, very accountable. So I don't need someone to give me accountability. But there's a lot a lot of people that needs the accountability factor. And that's one of the main things that coaches do is that, yes, when you leave a session, there's things that you say that you're going to do. And when you come back into the next time, he or she's going to ask you, did you do those? How did it work for you? Right. And what's the point of paying if you're not going to do the work? Right. So you send me to do it. Right. So
Right.
I get that. I understand that totally. So, all right, now let's get to my favorite part of this conversation is how important is mindset in managing and overcoming fibromyalgia? And what shifts in thinking do you recommend to your patients? I know we just talked about how we frame you're not going out to the party, but what kind of shifts can you think about to switch your brain from processing this pain at a double X times other than regular?
Right, right. So, in terms of how important it is, it's hard to answer that question because, on one hand, it's 100% important because you'll never get all the way there if you don't change how you think. But also, you will also never get there if you don't change some of the things that are going wrong physiologically. So maybe we'll do a 50-50 because both are equally important. We have to have both.
Okay. All right.
In terms of like ways and what to shift in your thinking, obviously we talked about the two biggies, which is your body isn't the enemy and making that shift from focusing on your illness to focusing on your healing. But some of the other things are what we think self-care is. Right. For a lot of people, especially ones that are internally motivated like you, sometimes that self-care list becomes just another to-do list, just another checklist, right? And our self-care becomes not very caring. And so really making that shift to what makes me feel better? What makes me feel worse? I think the biggest thing that helped me get to where I am today is a very practical sort of mindfulness, which is, John Kabat-Zinn talks about it being paying attention in the present moment, non-judgmentally, all of these things. And that's what we need to do because our bodies are giving us signals. Like you said at the beginning, pain is actually one of the last ones,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
You'll feel
Yeah.
a little uncomfortable. You might see some redness, some stiffness, like, all of these things. And then we get to pain.
Okay.
And so if we can start noticing things sooner, that's the mindfulness part of things, is that paying attention. Then we can start to learn what helps us feel better, what makes us feel worse. Do more of the things that help you feel better. Do less of the things that make you feel worse. So,
Right.
those kinds of shifts are really important. I think a lot of times we have to let go of the shoulds, right? The things that we think we should do because we're women, culturally, all of this, there's all these expectations. And a lot of times we have to let go of those, right? Maybe being a mom doesn't look the same way as your mom looked, right? We let go of the Martha Stewart perfect house, right? So all of those kinds of shifts, feeling guilty for putting yourself first, right? All the extra drama that we add on to saying no.
Right.
Right. Those are all the things that we've got to change our thinking about in order for everything else to work.
Yes, yes, yes. Right. Yeah. So, yeah, I mean, it's great that we're coming at it from, the perspective of this disease is something that I can work with. I'll have to change my thinking. What's going to make me feel better? What's going to make me feel worse? Choose that. As you were talking, I remember I was reading a book and this person was saying that her mom suffered from depression and she stayed in the room most of the times with the windows closed because she's depressed. And as you were talking about that, I'm thinking, Maybe you're a mom that, you're in pain or whatever, and maybe the kids are coming home and there's certain things that you can't do and you're feeling guilty about it because yes, this person was actually complaining that the mom was, but the mom was sick, she had depression.
Yes. And
Basically
the
what
other
she spent
piece,
her life, right?
yeah, the other piece of that, and I've seen this in multiple of my students and clients, is that we feel like if we are not doing things because we're sick, that means we can't enjoy ourselves. So one of my students said, when I would have a bad fibro day, I wouldn't even let myself watch TV shows that I enjoyed,
Really? Wow.
right? Because I'm sick, I shouldn't be having fun.
Oh, I would never think that.
Neither would I, but this, it's
It's probably a guilt thing though, right?
yes,
Yes.
exactly. Exactly. It's kind of like that idea of if you stay home from school, right? You're staying home because you're sick, not because you get a day off, right? But just like carrying that into adulthood and a little bit beyond what that thought was meant to be.
Yeah, yeah. But that's actually a very good one though, because you're right. If you're a mom with fibromyalgia, yes, there's certain days, like you call it a bad fiber day, where you're not going to be able to show up for your husband and your kids, right? And you're going to feel guilty and you're going to think, maybe they're thinking that I'm a bad mom and I don't love them. And you've got all those thoughts going through your head. And you've got to start, put it in the positive. Maybe tomorrow I'll feel better. And we're gonna do something tomorrow because tomorrow I'm gonna feel better. You know what I mean? You put it
Yes.
positive instead of spinning in the negative cycle. Awesome. All right.
Mm-hmm. The other thing about that too is sometimes we have to choose quality over quantity. Maybe you can't go to all the ball games, but when you do go, you're fully present, right?
Right, right, right. True. Exactly. Wow, wow. It's very sad though. It's very sad that you have to live your life um being controlled by this particular, disease. Because, even if you bring your mind to what you should do and what you shouldn't do, it's always center stage, right?
Yes.
Right.
And that's the big thing that I help my clients shift is getting them. I mean, it's the name of my book, right? Take Back Your Life. It's giving you the power again. Like, can you control your illness? Not 100%, but there's a lot of things that we can do to make it more predictable so that you can live a better life, right? It's just taking the wins where we can get them and focusing on those instead of all the can't do's.
Yeah,
Right?
right. Yes, yes. Okay. Well, it's a perfect time to talk about your fibromyalgia wellness framework. How does it help patients take back control of their lives? I mean, that was a perfect lead in.
See, I planned that. Uh, So the Fibromyalgia Wellness Framework, there isn't a, step one, step two, step three for treating fibromyalgia. We're all different, right? What's going on in our bodies might be mostly the same, but there's also differences. And what works for you might not work for me. So the framework first looks at, we do some assessments. We look at your fibromyalgia itself, right? We use the Fibromyalgia Impact Questionnaire to see your level of symptoms and how fibromyalgia is impacting your life. We have you do the Fibromyalgia Wellness Style Quiz so we can see, based on your personality, what are some of the challenges that you might have and what are the strengths that we can utilize. And we might also, hey, have your doctor run this test. We do assessment. The second step then is to create a plan. So based on what we've learned with that assessment, that will let us know where to go, right? So if we take a look at your fibromyalgia impact questionnaire, there's certain things we can tell there, oh, we need to work on this area of your life. And maybe there's things with your labs. Oh, okay, we need to work on that thing. And then we put together that plan for how we're going to make things better. So we kind of have to come at fibromyalgia from both sides, right? One is, what are we actually going to do that's going to help you physiologically feel better? And then, of course, our side of things, right? Our mindset, our lifestyle, our habits, right?
Okay.
So that's
individualized treatment.
Yep. Exactly. Exactly. Because nobody's the same. And then the third step is to actually implement that plan. And most people are going to need support. Most people are not internally motivated. And fibromyalgia is just hard. I mean, let's just be honest, right? The cool thing about me and the coaches that I've trained, a certified fibromyalgia coach has fibromyalgia. We are all people who live with it. We have all found ways to get better. And so we can then support you in ways that your other providers just aren't going to be able to because they probably haven't been there. And we have. So it could even be things like, hey, have you ever thought about using this to mop your floors instead of the way you're doing it? Right? I mean, it's real life practical stuff, but we're also educated, right? So we can say, okay, here's what that means. Here's why your doctor prescribed that. Here's, some studies on fibromyalgia. We can fill in that informational piece and just really support you. And then the fourth part, which I think is super important, is after you feel better, paying that forward. Right? I mean, once we have gone through something like fibromyalgia, even if it's just offering understanding and maybe one tip to some random person you meet on the street, or leading a support group, or becoming a coach yourself, whatever that looks like, when we have gone through something like this and then we've been given the gift of feeling better, I think we have a little bit of a responsibility to pay that forward to others.
Yeah. It actually makes you feel like your life has purpose.
Exactly.
It's a great thing to help others. It's a great thing to serve others. Yeah. And I mean, that is, the direction this world is going to now, where, some people take advantage of it. I saw this I saw this really funny video on Instagram the other day. The guy says, I've gone to the gym for a week. I've lost 2 pounds, and this is how I did it.
But sometimes, that's where we got to start some days, right? I think everybody can help somebody, right? I look at it like we're all on a dark staircase, right? I may be at the top, but I can still reach back and help guide you up the stairs. And even if you're on step 3, if you've only been to the gym a week, you still hold your hand back and encourage somebody. Might not be the expert we want to go to for expert advice, but yeah.
So funny. And he was actually giving some good tips. He had a bag of chips and he says, you eat one chip. One grape. It was really hilarious. But I said that to say that the I think Tony Robbins calls it the knowledge industry, where people are sharing what they have done to be successful, and they're sharing it. They're writing books, they're doing courses, they're on podcasts like we are here now, and we're sharing it so that we could actually help someone. And that's really the way or direction where this knowledge industry is going. So that's amazing. So yeah, and once you can help someone, it makes you feel better as well. It's a totally, it lights up a different part of your brain, and so that's great. So I'm glad that you're bringing it in. So our conversation has been beautiful. It wasn't focused on the pain. It was focused on mental health and how you address a lifestyle. So this was actually pretty good information. So, all right. So tell our listeners how they can get in touch with you for your fibromyalgia, your website. I think you're offering your book for free, or parts of it for free. So tell our listeners now how they can contact you.
Absolutely. So the best way is actually through my podcast. If you want to go to fibromyalgiapodcast.com or just look wherever you listen to podcasts, you will find us. We are out there. And so if you go to the website, though, there is a resources link in the main menu, and there's all sorts of mostly free resources out there. You can download copies of my books. You can take that fibromyalgia wellness style quiz. There's all kinds of things out there. So that's really the best way. And, if you want to work with a coach or maybe even become a coach yourself, there's the options out there for that as well.
On your website?
Yep.
Okay.
Fibromyalgiapodcast.com.
Okay. Awesome. All right. That's amazing. Yes. Well, listen, I'm glad that you just got the just fibromyalgiapodcast.com. So that's great because, hey, you just put the word in there.
It's easy. Yep.
These also tells me there's not a lot of that, people are not really doing it because you were able to get that website. So that's really good.
Yes. It was really funny when I was first starting my podcast. It's been 6 years ago now. But when I was going through all the things, what am I going to call it? What am I going to call it? And I was like, what about just Fibromyalgia Podcast? I mean, surely that's been taken. No. So do I really want to own that? Yes, I will.
Yes. So that's amazing. That's the first thing I thought of. That in order for you to get that means that there's not a lot of people doing it out there. So
No.
you are serving an underserved population. So that's amazing. All right. Well, it's always good to give people hope because yes, you're talking about pain, you're talking about brain fog, you're talking about no energy. All those things make you feel really crappy. So it's really good to help people to live better and feel better. And, the little steps that you talked about where, maybe you might not be able to do the full out things, but you can do a version of it. You know what I mean? One of my most favorite activities is go walking in the park. But my daughter had a blood clot the other day and she couldn't walk. And what did we do? I put her on a bike and I pedaled. So there's all kinds of ways that you.
Absolutely. That's exactly what we're talking about. Find ways to bring that, whatever it is that brings you joy. It might look a little bit different, right? Like maybe you don't cook the whole Thanksgiving dinner or whatever, right? But you can still get the bits that are important to you.
Yes. So that's important to bring that awareness to, yeah, I mean, don't sit around and think that, hey, my life is over.
You can't watch the good TV shows because you're sick. I'm giving you permission right now. That's important that you do.
Yeah, it's very important. Quality of life is very important to me, and quality of life should be very important to everyone that's listening. And you find it however you can. So that's amazing. Well, Tami, I enjoyed our conversation. Thank you for, sharing your work. Thank you for this very niche conversation. And you mentioned that 1 in 16 people. So it's, obviously much more prevalent than we know about. So hopefully this reaches a wide audience. And I'm happy to share this word or this information on Fibromyalgia Awareness Month. See, tripping up on that word again.
Yes, and thank you so much for doing this. Not a lot of people are talking about this. We need to be. So thank you so much, Myrna, for having me.
Well, you're very welcome. I always like to bring conversations that can help people live their best lives, which is what the show's about, right? It's my tagline. And yes, if you've got pain, then you need to find ways around it, right? Because nobody wants to live in pain, constant pain. So that's amazing. Well, all right, guys, listen, thank you for tuning in to this week's episode of Transform Your Mind to Transform Your Lives. Today, we were talking about transforming how you think about fibromyalgia pain. And we've given you some ways to work with that. Tami is a wealth of information. Like she said, that she's been through it. Now she's in remission and she has her team that can help you get to where she's at and live a pain-free life. So definitely go check out her website, which is fibromyalgiapodcast.com. And also on her website you'll see her book. She's allowing you to download that portions of it or all of it for free. And I will have a summary of my conversation with Tami on the show page, which is myhelps.us. And if you miss any of these, you can just head there and I will have the links on the show notes. So thanks again, Tami, for being on the show. Thank you guys for tuning in. As we wrap up, any last words?
The one thing, if you could take one thing away from this, just know there is hope. There are so many things that can be done to treat fibromyalgia. And so if you're out there struggling, please reach out. You know, whether we help you or we connect you to someone who does, there are so many things that can be done.
Oh, I love that. End on hope. Yes, we need to bottle that. Hope is very important.
Right.
All right. Well, listen, thanks again for tuning in. Until next time, namaste.